Hi, welcome back to another episode of Victoria 2, Heart of Darkness. Before I get started for real today, I'm going to give us a brief overview of the world as it currently stands. So, let's start with Europe. It looks like France is having a bit of issues with a few communists over in the bits of Germany that they've taken. Spain and Portugal haven't done much. Of course, we've already looked at Africa, and they haven't changed much, but still that Portugal owns a good chunk in the east. The Dutch own most of South Africa. The French own the west. Sicily owns northeast. America owns some of southwest, and then French owns northwest, with a little bit of Prussians here and there. And two Sicily's domains move all the way up through Libya. Alright, it looks like a little bit of land has been taken from Nejd in Saudi Arabia by the Ottomans, but the Ottomans are currently being completely hammered by the Russians. And looking at this war, that will probably that's part of this big war going on over here for East Macedonia. It would appear that the tides have completely turned against the Ottomans, who at one point were doing quite well. Other than that, not a whole lot else has shifted. The UK has taken bits of Sweden, or honestly of Norway, but what was Sweden. Prussia and Austria have both weakened, losing some land to the first power, France, which are currently very securely in first place. Looks like the UK is having some issues over in Canada against two Sicilies as part of this liberation of East Macedonia. That's truly a bit of a world war. And the Ottomans have gotten all the way up to take a bit of Alaska for some reason. The USA has completed their holdings in holding all of what would historically become the USA, having taken Washington from the UK, and not having taken any extra bits from Mexico, who are now in their sphere, and thus probably will not have any more taken from them. It looks like the US has not enacted the choice to get cores on Cuba yet, but that may still happen. We, of course, own bits of the Pacific, with the UK owning most of the rest, with a bit of the Netherlands here and there, specifically in New Guinea, Borneo, and Java. Portugal, of course, also has the Sunda Islands, which they started with. India is becoming British over time. I believe they still have events that lets them annex little minors in India, so that will probably continue. And yeah, that brings us back to Japan, where we own a good chunk of Manchuria, a good chunk of eastern China, and just overall a lot of Asia. Our goal in the near future will be to break away probably Yunnan, which has very high population, and maybe Jiangxi from the Chinese, to hopefully weaken them when they inevitably westernize. They have a few army texts that doesn't really tell us that much about what they have in terms of westernization. Even if they westernize, it will be a while before they're actually a threat to us, but nonetheless, we still don't want them to get there. We'll also hopefully take a bit, I guess I shouldn't say hopefully, but we might look into taking Taiwan from them, although there's only about 80,000 pops there. Only, but still, relative to some of their states, very small. So, let's get started. I wonder who's going to go bankrupt first. First things first, factory or scientific management finishes. So, tax efficiency or, yes, time-saving measures is a very useful research, so I'm going to choose that one next. Looks like Kutch goes bankrupt, they are in India, if I'm not mistaken. And our economy's shaken out. We're back into the green. Oh yeah, we have an election event currently going on. Going to keep going with the conservative faction, pro-military. So I still don't think we're quite ready for laissez-faire, and I'm willing to keep a little bit of industrial subsidies just to keep us from having to deal with potentially losing any factories or having our industrial power drop. Right now, we still have lots building, so it's not an issue. I might do laissez-faire a little further into the future, but for now, I'm going to leave it as it is. Another one of these events, choosing pro-military. Would be nice if we could get some canned food for construction, and to that extent, well, actually lowering that won't do anything. I am going to lower down the necessary spending on land military, lowering maintenance there, which will turn around and allow the canned food to be spent on building cruisers. Hopefully, anyways. Nitroglycerin and bonin. Nice little boost. I'm going to choose residency for this one. It says we're buying canned food, but it doesn't look like we have that. We have humiliation against Bhutan for some reason. Not even really sure where Bhutan is. Let's find it. Oh. Whatever. They're allied with Nepal, but we can't reach them. At some point they might be worth conquering, but probably not. And for the moment, just going to keep on rolling. Same event again, pro-military. Same event, same reaction. And, oh my, it would appear that something has become a great war, looking like Prussia trying to get Alsace-Lorraine. Funny, that's kind of how it worked in real life. Except in this case, it is pretty much every great power that isn't me or the U.S. versus France, Russia, and Two Sicilies is on the Prussian side. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. Maybe France will lose and get knocked down a peg. We're still a little ways off from France, but they are at war as well. So, citizenship policy going with residency. And our election should be finishing. There we go. Still the same faction we've wanted for a while. Looking at rebels, nobody really worth suppressing at this moment. I'm going to sort by size. I would be fine with some censored press being allowed, but unfortunately the upper house is not going to allow it, at least not yet. And let's look at, now colonial map mode does not, there we go, naval map. So naval base 4. 3, expanding here. And those are all currently being expanded. It would appear that it simply gives us the stripes for wherever the naval bases are, which is a nice way to pick them out. And going to expand all of these that I can. Let's see. Currently expanding. Currently expanding. That one will be done soon. But we do need some more supply, so switching back to whatever this is, political map mode. Actually building up all of these cruisers now, so our first modern naval unit has now been built. A cruiser. And look at those stats. Much, much higher than the commerce raiders we were sitting on. Romanticist art just came out with 1 whole prestige. Meaningless, hooray! And we're almost got enough canned food for all of these, at which point I will raise the maintenance on land back up to full. Our literacy's growing quite nicely as well. It's up to 82%. And time-saving measures just finished. The input efficiency techs are nice, but I think some of these might be better use. I'm going to go with assembly line. It's another 10% and 10% for lowered cost and increased throughput tech. And then combustion engine might have to be next to allow automobiles and airplanes, which will allow capitalists to build in these last 2 factory spots, along with electric gears and some of those others. So we're finally getting to that point, and if we can get an early monopoly on those, it will give us tons of cash. We can either lose some clergymen, which we have plenty of, or give them consciousness. I'm just going to give them consciousness. And let's look at our Navy. We're slowly getting all the canned food we'd like, but not nearly as fast as would be ideal, unfortunately. However, to help with that, I'm going to lower spending down to 20% on land maintenance, which also gives us the nice benefit of making some more money so that we will be able to expand some of these naval bases again pretty quickly. This one up here should be, there we go. We need at least, like 1,400 or something like that. We need a lot more supply at this point, but we still have a lot of naval bases being built. And in 1895, we will get to the point where we can research the High Seas Battle Fleet, which will raise the naval base max level by another 1, so we can continue to build. Steel production increased. I'm not sure that we build much steel. Looks like quite a good amount, so, and every little bonus helps. Some oil. Once we build some fuel factories, that will be great. Factory output efficiency tech, that will help us a little bit. Help increase the income, so I'm not going to drop taxes yet. Keep making some money, and we'll probably be back in the red once I finish building all of these, and, well, which I can do now, and raise spending on land back to full. I guess I don't need it at full, since it'll be a little while before we go back to war, so just to 80%. And the upper house rearranges ever so slightly. Not even worth writing home about, so little. Some more disloyal regiments. Going to choose the one that doesn't lose prestige. And let's see, which of these needed what? That one needs... The 6th Army needs the Dragoons. Nope, other one. And so, presumably the 2nd Army needs the artillery. There we go. So those are now reinforced back up to the 69 that I'd like. And I know, 69,000. Oh, another miner goes bankrupt. How relatively uncommon. Oof. The Great War, France is winning handily. That is unfortunate, because I really would prefer them not to win this. But it looks like they're not going to be able to get all of these war goals. They might be able to get all of the ones that France wants, however. Anyways, time clock just came through, which is an extra 2.5% to factory output tech. I wish the Prussians in the UK would be able to actually hold out and win this a little bit, but, or not a little bit, hold out and at least force the Great War capitulation white peace. But such is life. If France wins, and I'll just have to take them down myself. Extra 2% steel output, which is a nice little boost. Let's see. Looking at this, looks like we can add Spain to our sphere, which I'm going to go ahead and do for now. And going to also increase the opinion of Sweden by a couple levels. It'll take 2 weeks before I can do so again, but it will be worthwhile and will jump me right up to friendly, where I might just be able to beat the Russians out. I figure I might as well put Spain into my sphere, though, because although I would like to take the rest of the Philippines at some point, and it looks like they might break off, which would be a good chance to take the Philippines, for the moment they're pretty low in population and output, so China is much more valuable for the same amount of infamy. An international crisis that literally only myself and the US are capable of dealing with. But looking at this, yeah, Sweden's the only one at top influence. I'm going to raise their opinion of me. Help out the amount of influence I can put in each day by a little bit. Yeah, I'm not willing to take a crisis against the Russians right now. And so, no one else was as well. Looking at the newspaper, there's an editorial about how man may one day be able to fly. Unlikely. But other than that, just general news. A Malayan martyr. Malaysia seems to have a lot of this kind of thing happen. I'll just imprison him. No need to take the militancy. Consciousness doesn't hurt us. I'm fine with consciousness if it raises political reform desire, because I'd like some more political reforms. And assembly line just finished, so I'm going to go with electricity so that whenever we inevitably have to fight another war against China and or Russia, we might take a few fewer casualties, at least from attrition. And it looks like that Great War was ended, dropping the UK down significantly, but leaving France at a very strong position, mostly due to prestige. Oof, I may have to just fight them at one of these days to knock them down. But for the moment, let's see. Yes, we can get another great power ally with the US. Excellent. Finally, we have an ally to keep Russia off our backs. And let's see if any other of these naval bases are able to be upgraded. I believe that it's the yellow lines that are level 3, blue or green being level 4. Or maybe just yellow or uncompletely upgraded, capable of being upgraded. Light green can be upgraded though, regardless of what the color scheme means. And to also check on our holdings in the Pacific. Upgrade there. And where did we build? There we go. Alright. Few nice little upgrades. Some additional organization to our armies, which is a nice boost. And going to increase Sweden now to friendly. Though, let's see. It's looking like... Oh, Austria is back up to great power. Ottomans dropped down. Surprisingly enough, Switzerland is now a great power. Who would have thought? All 2 states of them. I imagine it's because they have a decent amount of prestige, probably from winning that Great War. But that's actually extremely surprising. And let's see if we have anyone in our sphere who's not allied. Well, Dinam and Egypt. Egypt is not interested in allying with us because we own some of their core provinces, and we don't really care about Dinam. But we might as well get them as an ally just to keep Spain, or keep China busy from another front, or rather get completely wiped out, but whatever. Ooh, and some additional prestige from being a membership in the International Olympic Committee. I will accept that. Most definitely. Got some extra leadership, so going to create another couple generals. And our infamy is starting to drop down pretty nicely. We have another couple years before we can fight China again. The end of 94. So another year and a half, which will give us just enough time to drop infamy low enough that hopefully we'll be able to really make a big difference as far as kicking out some sub-states. And we've broken past the 0.1% on these capitalists. I wasn't paying very close attention to that. My bad. So we're going to remove the foci here. Let's see. Southern Zahili, I'm going to send or spend a national focus for bureaucrats there, and in Shandong. And then we'll see. Hopefully, we will be able to convert these pretty soon. I would love to have them as states, which could be industrialized, because all of those pops would industrialize very quickly, and it's worth the drop in literacy considering how fast literacy is increasing. Let's also take a look in Kanto. Lots of clerks here, but it doesn't look like we have too many. I believe you can have 1 clerk for every 4 craftsmen at the optimum, so we're still doing alright there. And Baden just went bankrupt, due to another big war, I imagine. Yep. Austria and the US are trying to free Moravia from Prussia, which I assume is a bit of, yeah, it's a bit of Austria that Prussia decided to take in a war. Interesting that the US would send troops over to Europe. Looks like they're willing to project their power, especially considering that they are number 3 in the world right now, and not that many others have anywhere near the same amount of military power that they do, other than myself and France, of course. I'm very annoyed that France got all that prestige from winning the war. It looks like they got something like 600 prestige from winning the Great War, but we've still got about 40 years to catch them, so I still have complete confidence in us. Egypt has insulted us, so Rather than lose prestige, I'll gain the CB on Egypt. But they're still in our sphere, so it doesn't really matter. And the U.S. is really sending their troops. They're really mobilizing their troops, rather, to go ahead and take that bit of Prussia that Austria wants back. Seems that they will be a good ally for us. Ooh, and Mummy found a little bit of prestige and a lot of research points. Very nice. Looks like the little bit of cash we spent to send an expedition to Egypt is money well spent. And Upper House barely changes, of course. However, separatism will raise the speed of nationalist rebel organization, which is unfortunate, but as long as I keep an eye on it, it shouldn't matter. Brunei and Korea are the only places that I have any problem there. Just looking through technologies to see what I might want to research next. Refrigerator technology just came out, which is a huge increase to our fish and fruit production, which are very key since those are big producers, as well as cattle, which I don't know that we produce a lot of, and wine and liquor are big money makers, so those will be valuable. And it looks like we've been banned in Sweden, but that happens. Lowered plurality will lower our research points a little bit, which is a bummer, but not a big deal. And electricity just finished. So I'm going to research the steel breech-loaded artillery next, give our artillery a little bit extra punch. And it'll take about 6 months, so we're very quickly researching. Looks like Dynam have not done well on our sphere. I imagine their pops were unable to compete with ours and thus have gone bankrupt. But I'm not going to use that CB on them because I don't really care. I'm going to check naval bases again, see if there's any others we can upgrade. Although we're running a little low on cash to do so. But it looks like they're all being upgraded anyways. Other than this one up here. And yep. So we're still a little low on supply limit, but considering we have a lot of naval bases still in construction, we might get close at least. Nitroglycerin in another state. Very nice. Running a little low on cash, so we're going to raise taxes on the middle and the rich. And actually, going to raise it on everybody, and then increase maintenance back up to full. Help out our war industries. 5% factory input or throughput tech is a big increase. So very nice that we got that particular invention. Plus mechanized mining in another state. Things are looking up for us. Not that they haven't been. And it looks like we're slowly closing the gap with France. I think we're growing faster than they are, though I'm not sure of that. We really just need to get these states in China industrialized. If we can do that, we will be able to hopefully catch China from sheer numbers. So those 6 million pops could turn into a lot of laborers. And the one in Shandong isn't making much progress right now. I think we're going to need more Japanese, but the amount in Zahili is adequate to probably be able to be worthwhile spending that national focus. So I'm just going to move the other one to encourage clerks in Kyushu. And we now have electricity in one of our states, which is another nice 5% throughput tech and 50% mining efficiency, which raises our income thusly. We have some extra leadership, gonna create another couple generals. Another miner in Germany has gone bankrupt. I really hope our capitalists stop lending to them. And we have all sorts of projects that are instantly being funded because our national bank is massive right now, mostly from China and Malaysia, interestingly enough. Industrialized armament industry increases the production of all these important military factories. Looks like we're spending a lot on industrial subsidies, so I'm going to desubsidize for a bit, let our pops move around a little, maybe close out a couple less valuable of our factories. We got a repay debt CB on Portugal, but Don't really care. Oof, a flu pandemic. I will pay the money to lower the population loss impact. Population is one of our most valuable assets right now. And, oh, an additional pop growth from X-rays. Very nice. And additionally lowering army attrition, which I had said earlier in this series wasn't that important, but have been proven wrong based on the amount of attrition we've taken. Liberia goes bankrupt. This war is very harsh on the miners, it would appear. But the U.S. is slowly starting to win this one. And our fabric factory, which has been valuable for a long time, is finally gone belly up. I'm going to delete it, and since we have space, so nobody is currently unemployed in that state, and see where they want to go. While I'm at it, going to expand some of these other factories here in the places where we do have some unemployment. And I'm going to subsidize in North Borneo, because it's the only factory. And we'll expand the clothes factory, which is making plenty of money. But, and another one has gone belly up in Seoul. Going to delete that, free up some space for some new, better factories, ideally anyways. And money that we don't spend on subsidies can be given back to the people via lower taxes, at least on the rich and middle class. The poor can keep paying their taxes because they're here to support industry, basically. I'm going to just close down that fabric factory. It would appear that fabric is no longer as valuable as it once was, apparently because of lack of cotton and dye. So that's been enough shake-up. I will go ahead and resubsidize after I close down this. Well, no, we are just not getting enough timber, I imagine. So yeah, resubsidizing all of these. Bonin Islands, going to close that factory. It's not going to be meaningful. There's still only about 90 people in the entire state, so it doesn't really matter what's there, but a little bit of ammunition is never a bad thing. Artillery just finished, so what to build, or what to research rather, next. We only need to keep researching until about January 1st, 95, so then we can do high sea battle fleet, excuse me. So I'm going to do business banks. The extra minus 3% factory cost will be useful, and tax efficiency will be helpful if it comes down to a pinch. That will finish in March, which is longer than I would have expected it to take, but that's okay. Mechanized mining in another state. We lost a general, but there's always more where those came from, so now we're trying to take Sweden again. Another crisis over in Poland, which I am not interested in heading, at least. I might declare an interest, but Oldenburg goes bankrupt, and the crisis failed to enlist anyone's interest. No one really wants to fight against France or really any other great powers at this point, or risk a war. That Great War devastated the UK, Prussia, and whoever else was there, the Ottomans, I guess. Tensions have dissipated in Tonga, so a little bit lower militancy there. And some nice inventions. Plus 2.5% output, plus 1% output, and plus another 1% output. So should increase the amount of output by our factories pretty significantly between all of those. Still not making any money here on the fabric factory, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. It's not a matter of not having the goods, but having closed that, now we are making more on the other fabric factories we still have. Upper house rearranges ever so slightly, and because it is now 95, that means that our truce has worn off with China. So let's see what wars we can have. Release Puppet is only 2.5 infamy, so that is not worthwhile. Oof, unfortunately they have westernized now, it would look like. But they have not despite westernizing, they did not annex all of the other sub-states. So that's at least a little bit good. Or that's at least noteworthy. In fact, it looks like all of the other sub-states are no longer allied with China at all, which leaves us open to completely wipe China out, as well as be able to start taking, for instance, bits of Manchuria. Although that will take significantly more infamy than it once would. So, for the moment, let's see. Looks like Tibet is still a satellite of the Chinese, but that is it. And all of this takes a lot more infamy than we're willing to put out right now. So let's see what other options are around. I'm thinking I'm going to dissolve the alliance with Dynam and remove them from my sphere, and maybe see if I can't take a state from them pretty cheaply and easily, just to expand a little bit, or maybe even take Siam. So remove from sphere. And we'll just see how this shakes out. I'm checking back up in southern Zahili. We're now at 0.25%, so a quarter of the way towards being able to turn it into a real state. More disloyal regiments, but just choose the one that tells them to adapt instead of losing prestige. And since it's 95, we are now going to try and get the High Seas Battle Fleet as our next tech. And I have to decrease relations a bit down below 100 before I'll be able to justify a war. In the meantime, Burma is also civilized. But Luang Prabang is civilized. It looks like pretty much everybody... Oh, and so is Dynam. I didn't even see that. I think they just now civilized. Well, that's unfortunate. I guess I will increase relations back and put them back in our sphere. Maybe. Maybe I'll end up... Now I'm not sure what I should do here. I could take Cambodia from them, but there's so few people, it's really not worth the infamy. And Old Man of the Sea, gonna let the poor Estrada lose some space. I guess my best option at this point is to cut through China, take another state from them, and free up some space to be able to take land from some of their other sub-states. So let's see. I'm going to... I can't influence them at all due to lower population than them. I can do some of these others, but Yunnan is the only one that isn't currently in someone's sphere, so it looks like the plan of action at this point is to take another state from the Chinese Empire and then try and take some of Yunnan, since they seem to have an inordinate amount of population. So there's the plan of action. Sorry for the bit of indecisiveness, but sometimes it takes a bit of thinking to come to a plan. And civil violence in Cambodia. Annoying. I'll take the lower population loss. Never worth the higher population, really. Dropping taxes on the poor. I'll run in the red for a little while if I have to. It's looking like we still need a little bit more naval supply. But I'm not sure where else I can expand. I can expand here. And that one's almost done. That one's in the midst of being built. That one's almost done. I think I will just barely have enough supply for this fleet, which is sort of how I planned it to work out anyways. Yeah, once everything gets built, I should have just enough. So that will work out fine. All's well that ends well and all of that. And it looks like we have some machine parts and more fabric, whatever, and small arms being built. The small arms will be nice. We're losing a little bit of money in the lumber mills. So I'm going to shut those down and let them be replaced. Something a little more valuable, hopefully. Like dye. Dye would be quite a bit more valuable, I imagine. And the capitalists are taking advantage of the extra space to expand some more factories, which is exactly what I wanted them to do. We're almost done with the high-sea battle fleet. Mechanized mining is finished. And electrical lighting somewhere else. Getting all sorts of these nice little events. And our big fleet is almost done. We are a little bit above the maintenance cap right now, which means that not all of the ships will get all of the supplies they need, but we're not getting all the fuel anyways. Spain goes bankrupt, again, probably due to our big population running their smaller population out of business. Old Man in the Sea event once more. And the upper house gets rearranged. I'm going to stop here for today. In this episode, we've had China become civilized, which puts a little bit of a damper on us, but thankfully they're still a secondary power and may keep dropping if we can take some more land from them. Dainan also has become civilized. We basically don't have any primitive nations still to pick on. Yeah, even like Zulu down here in Africa has become civilized, so it looks like it's a civilized world. In addition to that, France has secured its place even further as number one, although we are growing on them. We have closed the gap from 1,000 right after the end of the Great War that they won to only 800 now, so we might yet have a good chance of catching and surpassing them in the next few years, and certainly by the end of the next 40 years. So, yeah, next episode I expect to take on China once more. Even in their new civilized status, we should have no problem wiping the floor with them. And so, thanks for watching, and check back soon for more Victoria 2, Heart of Darkness.